Welcome to another edition of Pittsburgh Sportsline. Thanks for watching us locally here only on Comcast 7, Verizon 32 everywhere in the Pittsburgh area. And you can see, as I keep telling you, all our TV shows on YouTube, all 250 plus. We have a great day in sports. You know, we're fired up about the Pirates, the other teams we won't talk about this week yet, or maybe later on. Smokin' Jim is watching our show on TV because his car needs inspected and he can't come out here to the show tonight, so it's not a working vacation today. So, Smokin' Jim, here's a shout out to you. Why couldn't some of your best friends drive you to the show? They could have been here too, because Zach Brunner's running late. He'll be here in about 5 minutes. So,
Smokin' Jim, you could have taken the tea.
Not from Monroeville. They don't have it from Monroeville, Chip. He doesn't even know what the tea is. But Smokin' Jim, thanks for watching the show, and all your friends and family and cousins out in Monroeville. And I'm Al Levine, the Talking Machine. We got Chip the Prophet Hayner right next to me. The Sandbox Boys, Smokin' Jim Frazier, you heard where he's at home eating popcorn. And Zach Brunner's en route, and he should be here in about 4 minutes, he said. So we usually start with what's on our mind. We're not going to change that just because half the crew's gone. So I'll go right to Chip the Prophet Hayner. I know what's on your mind, but I have to ask the question.
Okay.
What's on your mind?
What's on my mind? Bucko baseball. They're playing in the postseason again. And I just got to tell you, you know, this has been one of the most satisfying seasons that I have ever experienced for the Pittsburgh Pirates. You know, last year we got the monkey off our back by breaking 21 years of futility, by winning 94 games and making the playoffs. You know, we won the wild card play-in game, which was one of the most amazing sporting events that I've ever been to in the city of Pittsburgh, and fared well in the division series against the Cardinals. Came up a little bit short. And, you know, people were critical of the Pirates because of their lack of movement. We let Justin Morneau go, and we let Marlon Byrd go, and we let A.J. Burnett go. And, geez, we really didn't sign anybody. And it's in the middle of December or early January, we signed an Edinson Volquez. You know who heard of Edinson Volquez?
Yeah.
And he was the worst starting pitcher in Major League Baseball last year. What are you Pirates doing? And people criticized Neil Huntington. They criticized Bob Nutting because he wasn't spending any money. And the Pirates decided to stick with the hand they had because they felt that the players that they had were going to be good enough to win. And they were through a lot of ups and downs this year, lots of criticism that was heaped on them. No movement at both trade deadlines. Look what the Pirates have done. They won 88 games this year. Didn't match last year's win total. Right. Came 2 wins shy of my prediction of 90 wins and winning the division, which had they won 90 games, they would have won the division this year.
Amazing, isn't it?
But, you know, I think actually this team going into the playoffs this year is a better team than we went into the playoffs with last year. If you look at what's going on with the Pirates this year, they've got 9 players that have hit 10 or more home runs this season. They don't have anybody that hit 100 RBIs, but they've got plenty of players with more than 50 RBIs each. Top to bottom, from 1 to 8 in the batting order, they're stronger. They've got the 3rd most productive offense in the National League this year. The pitching staff has come around. They've got some solidity there. Edwin Volquez has been the comeback player of the year, and he'll be starting the game for us tomorrow night, and I'm very excited to see that happen. I was even more impressed with Clint Hurdle and the Pirates staff for going for it all on the last day of the season, trying to win the division. They came up a little bit short. I thought it was a great call to try. You know, you got to try to win it all when you've got a chance. But you know, tomorrow night, who knows what's going to happen? You know, it's a 1-game playoff. It could be one and done, or we could be moving on to go fight the Nationals on Friday morning or afternoon at 12:07. So I'm just a happy Pirates fan, and I am so excited to see what's going to happen tomorrow night, and I just can't wait. That's what's on my mind.
Thanks, Chip. Appreciate it. Zach Brunner, you saw him sneaking in. Somehow he was What'd you go to the dark side?
So, no offense, my friend, but somebody this size can't sneak.
Well, for some reason, John the Tiger Kiger was adjusting another camera. I thought he was helping out Zach Brenner in stealth mode. Well, Zach Brenner, I told him you'd be here at 7:05, and I think you made it. Whoa, I'm getting a text from Smoking Jim Frazier.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
He just said thanks for the shout out to him.
Oh, he's watching?
He's watching. He's eating popcorn.
Yeah,
He ordered Burger King. He got 2 Whoppers there, and his best friends are all at their homes. He's by himself. That's not fair. Well, Zach Brenner, that's our update on Smoking Jim. What's on your mind?
Well, Al Levine, I'm sure, Chip the Prophet touched gloriously on the Buccos.
Oh, no, he didn't.
Before I-
Not gloriously.
Didn't even mention him.
Before I made
Not gloriously. There.
it. More than once, I'm sure.
No, he didn't stop.
Give a shout out to all the hardcore fans that showed up down at, what was that, Market Square?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Market Square this afternoon. They went to black out PNC Park for tomorrow's game. Jim Frazier, they want you there, my friend, in attendance. But what's also is on my mind, I just got back from a nice little weekend trip to Dover, Delaware, where I took in a NASCAR race. The Sprint Cup Series was in Dover for the AAA 400. And, well, what can I say? Dale Earnhardt Jr. finished 17th, but under this new point system that they have for the championship, he advanced on to the next round. So there's several races left to go, and I look for more from Junior as we go along here. But another thing that's on my mind is I caught a little bit of Coach Tomlin's press conference, and I tell you what, man, if I had a nickel for every time that man said all the right things, I'd be rich. But too bad that doesn't translate into coaching on the field, because I tell you what, I've never seen more penalties flagged by a team in a single game for as long as I can remember, in a long time. And that's a lot. That's a glaring just lack of discipline, in my opinion. And I don't know what it's going to take to get these pro athletes and millionaires and multi-millionaires to get it together over there at Heinz Field. But, 10-6 isn't looking so good, Levine, if we don't turn it around. It might be another 8-8, Jim Frazier. And that's what's on my mind, folks.
Thanks, Zach Brenner. I appreciate you kept it to only 3 things and no tire. I was looking for a tire here. I thought you'd bring the second tire and set another record on BPTV. I was quiet until now. No, that's not what's on my mind. But thank you very much. Here's what's on my mind. Blackout a day early. I was a Pittsburgh Pirate fan before I was ever a Pittsburgh Steeler fan. And matter of fact, when I was growing up, I didn't collect Steeler cards. We only got them once in a while at gas stations and other things. I love collecting Pirate cards and Yankee cards and a couple of those other ones and Sandy Koufax, but it always come back to the Pirates. Matter of fact, I would try to pitch like Alvin O'Neill McBean back in the day. So that was with no wind-up, Zach, and just fire that ball as hard as you could. And some would say I had some good success, but I'll let others talk about me, good or bad. To me, it's just awesome to have a plan. It didn't take 5 years. It took 7 or 8 years. But the league changed the rules about the minor leagues because of the Pirates. So to me, the light bulb lit up with a little bit of help and some grape Kool-Aid from Chip that they were on to something. But like I said, I was disgruntled, like most of the generation that missed winning baseball. My kids, Zach, who's on our show, so they don't even know what baseball is. It's too boring. They got to play loud music, have fireworks. You got to have a band there each time and some type of entertainment and shoot hot dogs in the air at you and T-shirts and free giveaways. And pierogies got to run and beat each other up. But now we're talking baseball. Playoff baseball, it's great. I remember the World Series and being around there, back in '79, and, we are family. It was just magical. And my hope is it's more than one game this time. I hope they can go further because I am a Pirate fan. I say enjoy the ride. We all have our opinions, and after they win or lose, there's people going to complain. I may complain. We still need a first baseman. We have, combinations out there in right field, and we're trying to solidify things. But, here's the bottom line. 88 wins, and believe it or not, 41 of them are comeback victories. Yep. That led the league. I mean, how can you go wrong with winning baseball and they don't quit? And that's the grittiness of Pittsburgh. And we won't talk about the other teams at this point. We'll revisit stuff or move forward with our other segments because we will talk Steelers. We will talk, Pitt, Penn State, high school football if you want, or wherever we want to go. But our main thing will be Pirates after this. So we're not even going to revisit what's on our mind because we lived through that. Unless Zach wants to talk more about NASCAR.
I'm good for right this second.
Okay.
I'm still trying to get my hearing
Well,
back.
you know what? I do
You
want to
want a little
revisit one. Yeah, I
revisitation?
do want a little
All right.
revisitation because we're going to go pirate heavy tonight, and for good reason. But to speak to Zach's point about the way that the Steelers played on Sunday, and it was abysmal to say the least. They had 13 penalties that were flagged for 125 yards, and of those 13 penalties, 10 of them happened either before the ball was snapped or after the whistle blew. Okay? And yes, that does mean that this is a fairly undisciplined team. But what are we going to do about that? How do you get a team to be disciplined? Because there's no accountability. So when you do foolish things that hurt the team, you go right back in and you play the next play. Well, how does anybody learn a lesson from that? There used to be a time when you would do something stupid on the field and you would be yanked off the field and you'd go sit on the bench. These players, they want to play. But, that doesn't seem to be Mike Tomlin's forte. And then he takes offense because, local and national media, say that, you're referred to as a player's coach, and he seems to take offense at that. Well, if there's no accountability for the things they do wrong on the field, then how can you possibly get people to have discipline? And I think it's a problem, and it starts at the head coach. But the players got to be responsible to police themselves as well, and that just shows another lack of leadership in the locker room because the coaches they're not in that locker room every minute of every game. But the Steelers have problems, and they are many. And the fact of the matter is, by all rights, they should have won that game. People want to say fire Todd Haley, fire Dick LeBeau, but you look at Antonio Brown drops a touchdown pass wide open, a flea flicker, hits him in the hands. Ben misses a wide open Marcus Wheaton.
Justin Brown dropped one.
Justin Brown
Where's
dropped
Lance
another.
Moore, who got great hands?
Heath Miller, who's got great hands, drops a pass in them wide open. And then, you got Troy Polamalu, who I do believe that we're watching the last year of him playing as a Steeler. He seems to have lost it. But, on the game-winning touchdown play, you saw Willie Gay had the corner, and Troy had the inside coverage. And for some reason, he decided late to fake rushing the passer, and it left the wide receiver wide open. Willie Gay was there, couldn't do anything. If Troy would have dropped back into coverage, he would have been in position to pick that ball and end the game for us. But, they've got to fix the problems that they've got, and, they need to do it fast because the season's going to slip by before they know it.
The good news is a lot of great teams or so-called great franchises are struggling right now. The New England Patriots laid a goose egg last night down there in Kansas City where they didn't perform very well. So it's not like right now that there's a lot of greatness taking place in the AFC right now. So it's a good thing for the Steelers right now. So as we move forward, so
Already is alive and well.
it is. It truly is.
And one last thing to mention about Kansas City. Last night, the Chiefs dismantled the New England Patriots. Tom Brady looked old, okay? But tonight in Kansas City, for the first time in 29 years, playoff baseball is happening in Kansas City. And I just got to tell you, I'm heading from here right home to go watch that game because I want to watch the Royals bounce the A's out of the playoffs after they traded their entire farm system for a pitching staff that they limped into the playoffs with. And I'm sure that Kansas City tonight is going to be quite similar to the way Pittsburgh was 1 year ago.
Very true.
I would hope so. I mean, they haven't been in the playoffs since they won the World Series in, 1985?
29 years they have not had a home playoff game. So that's longer than the Pirates waited. So and Kansas City's a great baseball team.
Yeah.
George Brett and Amos Otis.
So let me defer to the genius baseball guys. How do you go 29 years? If you're such a historic, prestigious franchise, you went 29 years without making the
baseball
playoffs.
Drafts aren't perfect. Matter of fact, baseball drafts are so hit or miss that.
So you're saying the KC Royals have not been good since George Brett was on the team?
Well, they were good after that. But here's the things. They haven't made the playoffs in 29 years. They've had winning seasons.
Yeah.
But the way baseball was set up, it was set up for the haves to have and the have-nots to not get anything, because teams like the Yankees and the Red Sox and the Dodgers are going to spend and spend and spend in markets such as Kansas City and Pittsburgh and other cities. We're just not in a position to be able to play on an even field with the bigger teams. Then they got into the revenue sharing, and they've kind of leveled the field. And there's now been a blueprint on how these smaller market teams can get back to being viable and playing winning baseball. And, Pittsburgh followed the blueprint. The blueprint was originally written by Billy Beane with Moneyball out there in Oakland. So now people are finding out that you don't have to spend hundreds of millions of dollars to win.
And you've said this several times, Chip, that, you can't. Well, I pretty much, since the last time that the Yankees won the World Series, I feel like it's been a different kind of game, because now you could go out and spend all the money you want, like the Phillies, and look what you got. That doesn't always translate into hoisting the trophy at the end of the season. And now you sometimes set yourself up for failure for like the next 5 or 10 seasons, because you've just basically just bet everything, put everything on the line.
No, and I've heard the criticisms of the Pirates, and I hear every word that's said. But just think about this. Last year the Boston Red Sox won the World Series. Now they've won, they won. That was their third one in the last 10 years. Okay,
Yeah.
They won the World Series this year. They were 25 games out of first place is where they finished at the end of this year, because what they did was they had a fire sale. Now, how do you think the fans in Pittsburgh would, if you put it all in on 1 year to win a championship and then completely blow up the team, and you're back to where you were?
Well, I'll interrupt you right there. There's a lot of young folks. They're not fans like we are for a long term in our lives. Here's what they would do. They'd have the biggest parade. Unlike Jim Frazier once, if you make, a wild card. No, they're not having a parade. They had Market Square smoking. Jim, I think you were there. These people would be so happy. That's where you're thinking, and my thinking on that's much different. Look at Miami when they did that. They blew up the teams a couple times.
Yeah.
And fans come back. Then it's a drought.
Could that work to Boston? Could that work to Boston's advantage though, Chip, moving forward? They unloaded a lot of these people in a market where you said that people were trading players for players and not really players for draft picks.
Mm-hmm.
And so going into the offseason for Boston, they've probably set themselves up pretty good to be able to bring in some people, and they're going to draft good.
But the drafts aren't like the NFL. Baseball drafts are much different.
They're much different because what you're doing is you're drafting high school kids, and usually you're not going to find out until they're 22, 23 years old whether or not they're going to ever play in the major leagues. And they say of all the kids that get drafted in Major League Baseball draft, 10% of them make it to the show. But, here's the difference with the Boston Red Sox that's different from a lot of other teams. Is the Red Sox, they've got an entire corner of the country that's Red Sox Nation. It's not just the city of Pittsburgh. It's the entire New England. And, they've got deep pockets. And then you watch what happens in free agency. And I don't know who the free agents are going to be this year. I haven't looked that far ahead. I'm enjoying.
Oh, we got Bucko baseball.
Yeah, I'm enjoying the season right now. But they will spend money and they'll retool. They brought
wisely though, I guess is the key thing.
Well, it's always a crapshoot because the Phillies are a perfect example. They went all in trying to win one last championship with this player. Now they got all these players that are past their prime and they're stuck with the contracts. So
yeah, and there are a lot of incentive-driven contracts too. So
and
there's
the
guaranteed money.
Yeah, guaranteed.
When
money.
you have the incentives and they're making it, and then you're guaranteed that, you better win because you're in trouble.
Well, I think when the Tampa Bay Devil Rays got it done, it sent a strong message throughout the major leagues that you can build from the bottom up, and you don't necessarily have to spend big money in the free agent market. If you develop talent properly, you can compete with the Giants. David versus Goliath. So that gave the sport a little bit of promise whenever the littler guys were able to start keeping up and embarrassing these big guys that are spending hundreds of millions of dollars on the aroids and bringing in these outfielders and guys that are basically what the Yankees were guilty of for a long time is they were like oversaturating the market by overpaying for these guys. They were inflating the bar so high on contracts in the market that they were crushing.
And the Yankees
everybody
could
else.
absorb. The Yankees make so much money. They print money. I mean, they can afford to pay Alex Rodriguez $30 million a year to not play for them. Just think about that.
Well, look
That's
at the luxury
mind-boggling.
tax that they pay because of the money they make. They pay a
and they
luxury
just-
tax to each team.
And they just write a check.
Each team's getting money. They were getting upset because the Pirates weren't spending the money. They were trying to get a rule you have to spend a certain amount.
Well, here's the thing that you have to, looking at what this Pirates team brings to the table, and I started talking about this in my opening segment, is, I firmly believe that the Pirates are going to beat the Giants tomorrow night. We don't know what's going to happen. It's a one game, and anything can happen. But I'll tell you what, this Pirates team is built to go deep into the playoffs. We've got a solid rotation. We've got a solid offensive lineup. Batters 1 through 8 all are producing. They've got this. I'd say the second.
I know
best
you're
catcher.
excited. We'll dig into that again.
Second
But
best catcher
same
in
question
baseball.
I posed to Al Levine and Jim Frazier last night, Chip. Do you think it was a good move to start Garrett Cole on Sunday?
Absolutely.
Yes.
No question of a doubt. And the reason being because you had a chance to win the division on Sunday. If you could have won that game Sunday, Cardinals lose, you go into a one-game playoff for the division. And if you have an opportunity to go to start the playoffs with a 5-game series or a 1-game playoff, if you go all in and you go for it. It was absolutely the right thing to do because let me tell you something right now. Edison Volquez has been unhittable for the last month. He's just been lights out. Francisco Liriano's ERA for the month of September was .35. Edison Volquez is just under half a run for the month. I mean, he's pitching on his normal amount of rest in between starts. The last game he pitched, he was lights out. He's unbelievable. So yeah, I think it was a really smart idea to go for it. Hey,
Who's starting for San Francisco tomorrow?
Smoking Jim just sent me a text.
Bumgarner.
Can you see that? Smoking Jim, just call in 412-831-3304. I got the phone right here. Quit making your comments. Call in.
Hey, take your heavy money.
But hold it. Time out on the baseball. Since you guys are having free will and forget these other things, I'm not going with it. I'm going back to Steelers.
Okay.
Steeler coaching has been the root of this. Whether you're a player's coach or not, Bill Cowher was a player's coach. He was kissing players, but he did have some discipline. Did he have his pets? Oh, anybody tells me he didn't. He did. Did he put people in dog? Hold it. I'm on a rant. You guys had this thing going left and right. I'm on a rant right now. Tomlin to get offended about being a player's coach. What's that guy out in Seattle, Carroll? If he's not a player's coach, I never saw one. This guy's the greatest players coach, and he won the Super Bowl. Not him himself, but his players did. How do you motivate players? When they do all these penalties, I sit every one of them down, and I lose the game because I'm losing it anyhow.
For how long?
I sit them down that game.
The rest of the game?
Yeah,
For a
I just say
15-yard
sit
penalty,
down.
you're down.
Because we had 15 of them. After that, after like 6, before the play, after the play, I have a little huddle. The next one that does that is sitting down. I don't want to see a 15-yard penalty. Now, how do I know? I played sports. We all played sports. You can take it easy. Look at even Troy. Okay, he tried to make a play and his hand got stuck in the guy's face mask. I can't throw him out, but I'd sit him down because it happened after I said something. If I run a team, and I'm not running a team, I'm not greater than anybody, I'm not smarter than anybody. But that's how you get discipline. You sit some of these guys down, they're getting paid to do nothing now. They want to complain. I go, you're a superstar. Just sit there.
But
you
you
can't
know-
play on my team. I'll have the third string guy come in, and what do you think about it? Pride better come in.
And I think what we run into a problem here
That's
is that
what I
I
think.
think what that goes through the coach's head, and I could be wrong on this, is that we've got the union who takes exception to you benching a player. You've got an agent who's going to demand that he be traded, and you've got all this other.
Forget
Yes.
about it. Unions and the
It
unions
starts-
are there.
Listen,
to
it starts
compromise stuff.
with the
isn't it?
last name Rooney, and it's not Dan. It's Art. It's the son of Dan that is really running this
You
franchise
sound
into
like
the
smoking
ground.
Jim Frazier.
He's truly running this franchise into the ground and ruining one of the greatest franchises in the history of the NFL by, you know what? Hey, Rooney Rule aside, if you're not getting the job done, this is what Tomlin always says: the tape speaks for itself. We own it. Whatever. The same garbage every week. Own the tape, then, my friend. Own the tape.
Here's what
You've
team-
been terrible since we let you on your own and draft your own players and build your own team. You had a lot of cowards leftovers when you got to that Super Bowl.
Yeah, no, I beg let's refresh people's memory. I always hear this, that Tomlin is one with cowards players, and I think that's a bunch of BS, to be quite frank with you. I totally disagree with that point of view, because think about this. Bill Cowher got hired by the Rooneys, and Bill Cowher won immediately as a coach with Chuck Noll's players. And he actually took that team to the Super Bowl and lost. Then, once all the Chuck Noll's players started retiring, Bill Cowher went 3 seasons where he didn't make the playoffs. He had sub-500 seasons. And not until they brought in Kevin Colbert, and he was working with Cowher, did the team start reasserting itself. So, I'm seeing a lot of similarities with Cowher's beginning of his career and Tomlin's. He's not going to get fired. That much is guaranteed.
As soon as the Chin got the franchise quarterback, what happened?
he finally
Everything
broke
turned
through.
around. He was a man that prided himself on a strong defense, keeping the ball. No matter if we won 7-0, 3-0, 2-0, we're gonna hold on to that ball. We're gonna run. Our defense is gonna shut you down. And once we got that quarterback,
Well,
the thing,
I can't argue that point. The quarterback did help, but we also had a problem that's traditional with the last 2 coaches, Tomlin and Cowher. They can't manage a clock. And some of these guys, Tomlin not all the time, Cowher always played not to lose. He didn't cut it loose. He always played not to lose. You might have missed that when we were winning some of these games, but we did lose some of those games that were winnable.
we
And
lost more than our share.
I wasn't a big fan of his. I was happy for the success. But you could see he had arguments with Donahue, who was a great drafter and knew people, and he could get talent. He brought all this talent around. But Cowher wanted to be in charge, so they let him be in charge. Did it work? Yeah, because we did get a Super Bowl, but I thought we should have had 3 during his tenure, maybe 4. He had great horses. When you have the horses, let them play. He didn't always do that. He was spitting on people and all that, and it wasn't always the right person. It was a good show. But I look beyond that, just like with Tomlin. They hired him for whatever reason, but he's not a coach. Smoking Jim's told me for years he has yet to coach. Now I've been watching it, and here's what killed me after the game. It was bad enough that Tampa Bay scored the first 10 points in 5 minutes and scored the last 7 points in 7 seconds and win the game. When he said we're an undisciplined team and he's not coaching that type of undisciplined style, this hasn't just started. This wasn't the first game they were undisciplined.
No.
This has been all season in the last couple years.
Yeah,
And that's
right.
part of the problem. When you have to win these games that are close, when you have to have an offensive coordinator, I'm not throwing him under the bus. He should never have been on the bus. He shouldn't even been hired. He's not that good. And you can't call plays when they're in a no huddle from the sidelines. They're getting a play off in 5, 6, 7 seconds to go because we're in a no huddle, hurry up offense, and a guy's calling a play. And they've said, Haley's calling the plays for Big Ben on most of those. So the problems run deep. Could they be fixed? The easy schedule would cure everything. How do you beat a team the week before was 13-1 in their last 14 games, looked unbeatable, yet we crushed them. So we obviously have some talent, or the games are fixed. So I'll let
They're
you
not
decide as a fan.
No,
They're not
here's
fixed.
the thing that's different
Wow.
with this Steelers team that I think people need to realize. It's different from what we in Pittsburgh are used to seeing out of Steelers teams. You know, the Steelers teams were always built around the defense, and we could always count on the defense to win the game. Well, this defense that we've got now isn't going to win any games for us. We've got to rely on the offense to score points. And, you know, there was a lot of opportunities that were left on the field that weren't Todd Haley's fault, which were the players' fault.
I'll give you that,
Because the plays were called and the plays were there.
Well, you got to execute.
He's been
the
holding
ball-
that offense
ball-
back though for 4 weeks though. If you're talking about Cowher as a coach that he played not to lose the
That's a
game but
fact.
didn't let it open. Well, I tell you what, we've never had a better quarterback since Terry Bradshaw, and I'll take all bets on that. But we have the quarterback, we have the wide receivers. The offensive line isn't playing terrible. They're still all one.
5 sacks in the first half.
I mean, but
Some
I'm
of the
talking
soft
about
guys
before,
were coming through.
I'm talking about
Right.
before.
But we
Tampa
did have
Bay.
chances. You're both talking similar things. We had chances.
Yes.
He's saying we'll cut it loose a little more. Like, why are you running the ball on 3rd and 5 where maybe a pass, even if it doesn't succeed, you're still in the same situation.
Yeah.
You know, in the last series there.
No, but
and running a clock down.
It's
I
difficult.
mean, think about running a clock down. That's part of it too.
It's difficult in the National Football League to get a yard, let alone 5 yards. But I would love to get into more third and shorts.
I was
where you
listening.
have a
I was
chance
listening to
run.
Ben today during his interview on the radio, and the first down they gained 5 yards, and then on second down was when Marquise Pouncey did an illegal snap. Okay, the play they had called. Okay, at that time that started off. Everybody started. They were watching the film. Had he not screwed that snap up, they said that play would have at least gone. They would have at least gotten a first down and probably a lot more yardage. So I mean, I don't know if the play calling is as big of a problem as the execution of the plays that are called.
Here's part of my thing. Whether Haley's there or not, somebody else would call the plays, and you have the athletes to do it. Big Ben overcompensates on his own to make good plays. So I don't care who's back there.
Yeah.
I'd rather have a guy that's friendly with Big Ben.
What good
and
is
do
the
that.
no huddle if you're not taking advantage of the concept of no huddle by allowing Ben to do what we know that Ben can do?
That's my point.
It's not kosher.
You got
to me.
egos involved here, and Haley
Is
was.
Tomlin allowed to do anything about it though? Is he just more of a
No.
figurehead? He's like a
Yes.
puppet to the Rooney. So he really couldn't just say, you know what, Haley, I've had enough of you. I feel like I could call better plays than you in certain situations. Get out of here.
Go back to what happened with Arians. I'm not calling him the genius like our esteemed colleague, Smoking Jim Frazier, that genius out there wherever. Here's what happened. Arians didn't retire. Tomlin said he was coming back. And then they said he retired. Then they said he was fired. And then Haley come in. Now, those aren't the strangest circumstances, but they're not good. So look what happened. So obviously, Tomlin didn't have a choice in that. Think about it. These are little signs that you can pick up. Is Tomlin a figurehead? Yes, because I haven't heard the standard for almost 3 years now because they're not winning. So
Right,
all these cliches are great. You can go out in the community, present a nice thing for the Steelers. That's awesome. I'm all for that. But you're not a head coach.
But can I also say this real quick though? We haven't been disciplined on the field. We've been even less disciplined off the field. So
It's a culture.
Where does that start with though? That starts with the head coach. The head coach sets the tone
I
from
said that
training
earlier.
camp,
Yeah.
from the draft, from the beginning. Like that's the image, that's the face, that's the intensity. Like that's who you go off of. Your
Right.
coach, the head coach. And
Well-
nobody fears him. At least guys feared Cowher. Nobody fears Tomlin. What's going to happen to you? You get 15-yard penalties, and you're still playing. You're still in the
Well,
game.
you heard what I would do. Now, whether it could happen, whether the players' union puts up a gripe, I say you have a grievance process. I'd go as far as I could with the CBA to discipline players because I need discipline because I let them get out of control. I would take responsibility for it. He's not doing it. He just said now he's going to do it. What, we're 2-2. 18 and 18
You know what?
in the last two and a quarter
all the
years.
talk in the world doesn't make anything happen.
Right.
He needs to show me, and we'll see what happens. I
And
mean,
you know what cures all this? a win. That's all
But
it'll
you know
do.
what? I'm not even gonna. A win cures it. But you know what? I would rather get the ship righted and be in the position that we know we're capable of being in than just winning. You know, these games just crawling through.
You remember last week, and I said this that look at the Steelers, 7.5-point favorites, and I said take the Bucks
Oh.
and the points. And and we have a tendency to play down to the level of our competition.
That's what I say every
And
time.
and then
You
that
should've
frightens
did it.
me for what we're
they
going to
did.
do this week. The last week we lost to a team that was 0-3. Could it get any worse? Yeah, it can. We could lose to a team that's 0-4 this week.
No major injuries.
Right.
No
Right.
major injuries to report of circumstance coming out of the Tampa Bay game. So
Well,
that's
I'm
a
optimistic.
positive.
Steelers win. Like I said last
Steelers
week,
win.
don't even bet. I'm not for that betting. It's a family show.
And for the second straight year, in September and October, I'm in the the unglorious position of the Pirates are really better than the Steelers right now, and it just kills me inside that that's the way it is right now. That the Darlings are over there at PNC Park, and the ugly stepchild
Here,
is over at Heinz
let me
Field.
explain this to you. 1887. That's when they started. 1887. Oh, Pirates. For all you newbies out there, we'll educate you a little bit. Some of you learning this stuff. And sure, it's hard because we're segueing into the Pirates. Enough with the Steelers.
Yeah.
With the Pirates, 1887, there's a history. They used to have people go just to see Ralph Kiner hit a home run because they sucked. They'd lose 100 games, but they had good players in certain
Let me tell you
positions.
something. When I started taking my wife down to the Pirate games in 2008, the fact of the matter was there'd be more of the opposing fans in the stadium than Pirate fans, and the only black and gold that you would see in the stadium were Steeler jerseys. And we'd go down in 2008, say, hey, let's go down to eat some junk food and watch the Pirates lose. That was the running joke. But the team has transformed itself. And Smoking Jim, it's really odd that you go ahead and said it was a bad idea to start Cole on Monday evening. I didn't hear you saying anything on Sunday.
Well, he's not here to defend himself. He could call in. He could call in 412-831-3304.
Jim, I love you, brother, but I had to give you a shot.
Well, we're opinionated
Brother
here.
Blue, Smoking Jim.
That's why he couldn't make it. He could have. Oh man, he's texting me now. He won't
Let's
call.
segue. Well, we're
He's
about the
laughing.
20-minute.
I love you, Jim.
We're still on
We got
baseball.
some trivia coming up, don't
Look
we?
forward to seeing the next
Trivia's
week,
in
my
the background. What happened to trivia? We got Pirate baseball. You guys are all over the place.
Yeah, well, all over the place. I got trivia if you need it. If you want to go Pirates baseball.
I'm still with Pirates right now. I'm
And,
fired up
and,
about it.
And we last year when we played the Reds in the wild card playoff game, there was a rivalry between the Reds and the Pirates, and there was a real hatred of Pirate fans of Dusty Baker. Dusty Baker, I thought, was a dirty manager. Really, did some things that were very, very underhanded. Just punk moves. Let's just put it to you that way.
Then you probably think Kirk Gibson's the same.
Kirk Gibson is exactly the same, but guess who's looking for a job?
Both of them.
That's
my point.
And if you're looking for something to hate in the San Francisco Giants, look no further than Hunter Pence. Here's a guy that's already run his mouth, and he's just an annoying type of a ball player. And I certainly would love watching him get his mouth shut tomorrow night.
Well, I give him credit for making millions and going to different teams every year.
And I love it too. Are the bats going to
He
come
won a
alive
World
this tomorrow?
Series,
I know, by
with
leaving.
the Giants, by leaving the Phillies, and leaving the Astros and going to the Giants. But I tell you what, top to bottom, I think the Pirates are just really, really strong. And Russell Martin will be playing tomorrow night.
I would
Clint
hope so.
Hurdle. Clint Hurdle wouldn't commit to it today, but I heard an interview with Russ, and Russ said that it's the playoffs. My leg feels better now than it did. He goes, actually, it feels better now than it did.
He's been
in the spring."
rehabbing it and doing everything
And
he
he's
could
going to do
possibly
the adrenaline's going to be flowing. And one of the things that I heard Edison Volquez say the last time he pitched, he said they went to give me the book on who we were playing. We were playing the Reds. He goes, they were giving me the scouting report, and he goes, I don't even want to look at it. Because whatever Russell Martin calls, I'm not going to question it. I'm just going to whatever he puts down, and he threw it.
Yeah, but meanwhile, you know who's calling it? Clint Hurdle's calling those pitches.
You know what?
It's not like when we play.
For the
Russ Martin,
He gets some. He gets some.
He does a great job at managing his
For the
pitching
last
staff.
40 minutes, though, folks, you've heard these guys hype up and talk nothing more about than the pitching staff and Volquez's pitching. Well, guess what, folks? You can't win a game 0-0. So tomorrow, some of those stars like Jay Hay and and the chosen one.
They were second and third in the batting title.
They're gonna have to, but it's a one-game playoff though. So if those bats go cold, Volquez could throw a perfect game.
I hope so.
One run and it's gone.
Okay, maybe
it's over.
you missed this before you came in. The Pirates this year have 9 batters that have 10 or more home runs. First time ever in the history of the Pirates organization. From 1 to 8, they have got a stronger batting lineup than most teams in the National League. They were the 3rd most productive offense in the National League.
One game. Anything can happen.
Anything can happen.
Game.
And you know
Just
what?
One.
There are only 3 teams in the playoffs that have ranked in the top 5 in pitching and in run production this year. One of them is the Washington Nationals, the other one's the Dodgers, and the third one's the Pirates. So their bats, they'll be there. I'm absolutely confident in their ability to take it to them.
Here, you also missed the point. 41 comeback victories, so they're fearless.
But also, some of those comeback victories are because the bullpen was absolutely, horrendous early on and was blowing
early. But the bullpen has been solidified. It has. They're shutting down teams. And remember this: if there was any place to play that one-game playoff, it's right here at PNC. We're 51-30 there this year. Okay, so we win in our own house.
Oh, there's no doubt that atmosphere.
We win in our own house.
That atmosphere tomorrow is going to be insane.
It's going to be electric.
Electric there.
Absolutely electric.
All black.
And here's the other thing. What do we always say about teams? We want to see them get hot at the end. So they lost 2 out of 3 to the Reds. It didn't really matter. I mean, it did to a point, but the other team had to lose. St. Louis had to lose, which it's hard for St. Louis to lose in September.
Real fast, who do you feel is the best team in the National League right now?
Here's the odds-on favorite. I'd have to say the Dodgers. Yeah. Dodgers have the strongest pitching staff. Clayton Kershaw.
They pulled it all together.
Ultimately, Clayton Kershaw will probably win the National League MVP this year. I disagree with that. He's going to win the Cy Young Award, but I don't think a player that plays every 5 days should have an opportunity to win the MVP.
I have to agree with Chip on this one.
I think an MVP award should be for an everyday player, but we'll see what happens. We don't have any control over that.
That's why we have Cy Young Awards.
I do want to take a little bit of an issue with the batting title this year. And Justin Morneau, who is somebody the Pirates did not decide to sign, went into this past weekend's game, Saturday and Sunday, with a .319 batting average. And he came out of this weekend's game with a .319 batting average. You want to know why? He didn't play. Jay Hay and Kutch played, and their average ended up losing. He ended up losing the batting title by 4 points. If Morneau plays and goes 0 for 8, Jay Hay wins the chink, and it's his right to do that. He was in the lead. He qualified to win.
I don't blame him one bit.
I think it's a punk move. You play.
These days change.
How much? Can I ask you what did Morneau end up signing for?
I don't remember.
I have no idea, but I do believe, and somebody I know was looking at his splits and his batting average and his power numbers and everything when he's playing in Denver are far superior to when he's away from there, because there's something about the air.
Just ask Clint Hurdle
in a mile-high city, and so hey, you won the batting title. You didn't break any rules doing it, but I'm just saying, you know what? I'd have more respect for him if he'd have played it out the last 2 games and taken his at-bats.
So if the Pirates pull it off tomorrow, they have the Nationals waiting for them.
Yeah.
And again, the series will start in Washington.
In Washington at 12:07 on Friday.
And I was just thinking about Bryce Harper too when we were talking about minor leaguers, because every once now and again you'll get a kid though in high school that
he's a man
is going to
among
be the
boys.
next. great thing. And he was one of those kids that ever since
No, him, Mike Trout is another one.
Sure.
They both came up at the same time, and those are those once in a lifetime.
Well, you
kind
get
of-
two
kind
or
of ball
three of
players.
those guys at a time. It just seems that they're always in a cluster like that. So there's this competition and
Yeah.
competitiveness out there. I enjoy that, and that's why I said it's really.
And the Nationals will give the Pirates a good series. To be honest with you, I'd much rather see the Pirates play the Nationals than the Pirates have to go out
What's
west
the-
to play the Dodgers.
I'm
what's the
hoping, yeah.
percentage?
And facing Kershaw twice.
What's the percentage in the drafts? Is it better to go for the high school kid, or is it better to go for the college kid? That's you got a lot of stuff to watch on him, the competition.
I think
Is
it might be a little bit better with the college kids.
It's
'Cause they've matured.
It's hard to say because for example, Pedro Alvarez. He's somebody that they that went to Vanderbilt University, and the Pirates signed him after he finished up his tour there. He came in, and it took him a short period of time to get into the majors. But look at him now. You got a couple of kids that we just signed. One of them's a catcher, Reese McGuire. And here this kid is 18 years old. Now he's going to get exposure of playing in major league type situations with the traveling, playing ball year round, from 18, 19 to 20. So that by the time he's 20 or 21, he's not going to have to go through a learning curve of learning the professional game. When you're playing in college, you're playing 40, 50 games maybe a season, and you're going to school and that. But this kid's spending all his time, and this kid could be ultimately at one point or another the catcher of the future for us. It's probably 3 or 4 years down the road because he's only 18.
Right.
But it's hard to say. It's really kind of hard to say. There's success stories. Barry Bonds, he was a star baseball player for Arizona State University. And look what he did. He came into the majors, and he made a splash. And you got to give Barry his props. He's probably one of the best ball players of his generation. It's just a shame that he took the path that he decided to take.
So isn't it strange though that basically the game that you guys love so much basically comes down to brilliant minds evaluating talent and taking gambles and taking chances
That's why
on
I
kids
like it.
and going out there on the road and going to little back roads and towns and
We picked up a reliever. His name John Holscomb. The kid's 6'9". He throws a 95, 96 mile
Was
an
that the
hour
kid from the
fastball.
Frontier League?
And they found him in the Frontier League, and they found him in a cornfield out in Iowa. Okay, and there was 32 other teams that send their scouts all over the place. We found him. No one else did. And we brought him into our system. And now this kid, he got roughed up a little bit this weekend for the very first time. He's pretty much been unhittable. I mean, that's what these teams in the smaller markets have to do. Their scouting departments have to beat the bushes. They got to go everywhere. All the third
And they
wall.
can't make a
noticed
lot
that-
of mistakes.
And
they
I've
can't
noticed
have.
that like hockey and baseball, it's almost vital and pivotal almost to have those scouts and to have that ability
Sure.
to get the talent and the stars or whatever.
Right.
And cybermetrics and everything else that they put into
And I'll
it,
tell
it
you
does
what,
mean something.
the sabermetrics, it's so
Saber, I'm
confusing.
sorry.
You need a PhD to try to figure it out. And there's all these things, and I just what? Put the kid on the field. Well, let's see if he can play ball.
Yeah, but
Well, they use that. They
yeah,
use
but
that
it actually
to
works
get
with the
Volquez, though.
sabermetrics. Yeah.
There was some kind of logic or theory with Volquez with that.
A lot of the
sabermetrics.
pitching-
They were for 3 years and he was terrible.
Yeah.
They
You-
were saying that.
Here's
You
what
can
they
go
do.
to a website and they break all this stuff down for people, and they tell you that the Pirates are making the right moves using the sabermetrics that
But
they are, because what it is you're plugging in the data. Now you have computers that can crunch all this stuff.
Right. When you used to
And-
have to do that.
Right.
you know,
You'd have to trust other people, and if they made a mistake.
And now you
or-
get the data from all over the world.
Right.
Where, you used to have to use the teletype or whatever. But, to speak to the Volquez thing, the Pirates did, Ray Searage and his staff, they look at players that had success in the major leagues that have fallen on hard times. And then what they do is they go back and get all the old tape from when they were successful, and they analyze what they were doing right when they were successful, and they sit down with them and they go through it piece by piece, and they rebuild the guy, his whole motion and everything. They rebuild his confidence, and they work with him. And I'm telling you what, when they signed Volquez for $5,000, I had to tell you, I was not.
5 million.
I was among. I
Yeah,
was
$5
among 5 million.
5,000.
They signed him for
Oh,
$5
that was like
They signed him for $5 million. I had to scratch my head. I was
Dr.
like,
Evil.
What
Dr. Evil.
What are they signing this guy for? I'm like, geez.
Yeah, but that's what
it's,
opinions
it's,
are.
it's a gamble, And I like, okay, I trust these guys. They've done great. Look, look what they did. They rebuilt Liriano's career. Volquez.
Well, no, his history followed history. Do bad.
So Volquez was signed though to be the fifth or sixth starter, and what is he now, like the third?
He's the third starter,
Yeah.
and actually, he's the only starter that's been in the starting rotation
The whole
from
year.
opening day to today. He's the only one that hasn't been on the disabled list.
Right. So,
Knock on wood.
yeah, and I'm happy about all this coming together now. Comeback player of the year, whatever it is. They could win this game.
And you know what else is painful to watch though? Man, do I feel for Clint Hurdle. Man, the more he gotta walk out to the mound, the more I just
I tell you what,
What a soldier.
Clint Hurdle is doing this without pain medication because he is a recovering alcoholic. Okay, he's been clean and
Right.
sober for 16 years, and God bless him. But I just wonder how it is that he sleeps at night because with that kind of a throbbing
in a seat.
ache,
He's in a seat.
You know,
He's in a
72
in a chair.
hours after
I
the
would
season
think.
ends. I mean, 72 hours after we win the World Series. You heard
Yeah,
that right
you heard
here
it first.
tonight. But 72 hours after we hoist that trophy, Clint's getting surgery done on his hip.
And he made the choice, though. When you think about it, he could have had the surgery earlier because they knew.
Well,
He could have done it, but he made that. So, he's a tough guy. I give him credit there. And plus, it's inspirational when your players want to not run out to first base. He can barely walk out to the pitcher's mound.
Here's the thing
I think
about
it inspires
the Pirates
him.
team that without making any moves this year, and you see what their manager's going through. But this team is they know one another. They trust one another. They've gone through good times. They've gone through bad times.
Oh, yeah.
And they've dealt with criticisms, and they've come through it, and they're stronger for it as a unit. I think that the sum of the thing is stronger than each individual part.
Sure.
And I just
That's
think that
hence the word team.
yeah, and then it is the epitome of the word team.
Yeah, and that's how it should be. So, most of it has been an open discussion
Smoking
on
Jim is
Steelers.
loving the Rooney controversy.
Why?
He's loving the Rooney
He's probably
controversy.
talking on a couple of the Facebook things.
He is.
Talking sports. He puts his opinions. Because I'll say it for him. They just want to be 8-8 because they're not great.
No, they
That's what he's
they
trying.
certainly are great. And
To you, Smoking Jim. But hey, I do want to interrupt. We, at least at Sips Sports Bar, we had a great run there. 81 shows. It was just awesome to do it. My friend's the owner there, and it's now going to be a Chinese restaurant. All they have to do is get a check. From what we've heard, the Kamikaze Kid was giving us an update on it, on the finances, whether that's all true or not. Kamikaze's a reliable source, but not all the time. So we'll go from there, but it's close to being sold one way or the other. So next week, we're going to go somewhere new called the River City Inn. It's been around for years. It's at PPG Place, number 5, and it's right on the Boulevard of the Allies, right across from Ruth Chris. We'll be there next week at 7:30 to 8:30, filming another edition of Pittsburgh Sportsline at our new place. So you won't be hearing Pittsburgh Sportsline at Sips anymore, and we're going to start something new, and we're looking at starting it there. So we're happy for all the people to come out, especially to Kelly that was there on our first show. She showed up on our last show at Sips, and here she ended up knowing my dad. She didn't know beforehand, but one of my dad's good friends, Jim, the mailman, actually showed up to talk to me and his wife Sandy, who I never met. So it was nice, and they're friends with my dad's buddy Pat Carmack, and they hang out at a local establishment, but they come to Sips there. They had been meaning to. So just the type of community things that we bring out there, from fundraising to different businesses, that people in the area just talking sports, want to have some fun and promote whatever they're doing and talk sports, which that's what we do, as you caught on to this tonight. So I'm happy about that. And, I thank you for watching our show. I know sometimes we get a little scattered and don't focus on our segments. We'll try to tighten that up, but this is the first time that the Pirates have been in the playoffs 2 years in a row, so that's an exception. And the Steelers, we haven't seen them, 2 years in a row, 8-8. and we don't know what's going on because they look like they're a house
Looks
in
like the
disarray.
wheels
So
fell
bet the
off.
house, Smoke and Jim, they'll win this week. Do the opposite of what the Steeler fans think. So I just wanted to get that in. Chip, with your trivia time, we got about 3 minutes or so. I don't know if you
first,
want to give a shortened version.
I can give a shortened version. Here's what: September 30th, 1972. Roberto Clemente, last game played as a Pittsburgh Pirate, got his 3,000th hit. It was a double off of John Matlack over at Three Rivers Stadium. At the time, I didn't think that was going to be the last game I ever saw Roberto Clemente in a Pirates uniform.
Neither did I. I thought that photo was great at the end. Him tipping his cap. Yeah.
Just so, wanted to make sure that we gave a holler out there. And this is something that Alan and I have talked about more than one time on this show. September 28th, 1920. A grand jury indicted 8 members of the Chicago White Sox on charges of fixing the 1919 World Series in the Black Sox scandal. I just thought I'd give that a little mention. Another quick mention here. The splendid splinter, Ted Williams, went 6 for 8 in a doubleheader against the Philadelphia A's on September 28th,
what was his average?
1941. He finished the season with a .406 average, the last time anybody has batted 400 in Major League Baseball. That and that was also that was September 28th, 1941. September 28th, 1960, Ted Williams homered in his final at bat to end his career. So kind of took it full circle. Nolan Ryan on September 26, 1981, pitched his 5th no-hitter, became the first man in Major League history, too. Yeah. And on September 28, 1974 was when he pitched his 3rd. And there was one other feat that Mr. Nolan Ryan accomplished. He set a Major League record for most strikeouts in a season.
He had to do it near the end of...
On September 27th, 1973. He struck out number 383 for one season. That's one heck of a record. Still has not been beat. But
Chip, you did good on the shortened version of Chip's trivia time. Z time. You got about 30 seconds. You've been covering everything. What do you want to do?
Just want to give a shout out to Janet Kolsar. We had a great weekend going to Dover. My NASCAR friend had a great trip. I look forward to getting to Daytona in February. Look forward to boxing coming up on November 14th. Lightning Rod Solka versus Moni Meza Clay. My Life is a Movie, Meza Clay. Yeah. Two Guns, Moni Clay, whatever you know Moni Clay as. He's fighting Rod Solka at the console. Mike Tyson's back, so we'll get to kick it with Mike Tyson again on November 14th. We got cage fighting coming up on November 26th.
Yes. Yeah. At
the Green Tree Sports Complex, Pinnacle, 6? Pinnacle 6?
Yeah. And before we end, I want to at least give a shout out to Rick Steigerwald. This is his Golden Gloves championship photo, and I think it's 1977 at the Civic Arena. There were actually about 12,000 people. Rick looks like a mini Dale Earnhardt. The guy's conversation was just great. He covered so many great things. You have to watch the show when we post it up. But we're going to be ending this show. Thanks for what? Did you get that?
Yeah, he did.
Okay, thank you very much. John the Tiger Kiger, Devin Shea, Dave Cable, thanks for everything. We appreciate it. Have a great night. Be safe.